At the time, I worked at a gas station. It was one that's part of a larger store, the kind where the attendant is stuffed inside a tiny box. I mostly want to impress on you that this box is like a tank. Concrete, steel, rebar, and 3 inches of bulletproof glass. The company spent a lot of money on this thing. After a certain hour at night, usually 10, we'd lock all the vending area coolers, etc., and just sell gas until the morning. At that point, there's no reason to leave the box. Everything is prepay. Cue midnight. A little old beater of a car pulls up. Out comes an old lady, short, over 70, Asian. She comes up to the window, surprisingly polite. I didn't really get a good look at her, as I was getting tired and working on autopilot. That's when the old woman starts acting real weird. She starts looking at the closed coolers and fiddling with locked carts, generally trying to get at everything she can't see or have access to. By now, I'm paying close attention. She turns to look at me, and it's awful. I can't describe it well, but her face? It was like she had all her skin replaced at one point. The complexion and the meshing of it was all wrong. It was bad enough she was a little too wrinkly and had mole spots on her hands, but her face, and worse, her smile. It was the most out-of-place part because her teeth were absolutely perfect. So her face looks like someone copy-pasted it onto her. Her smile says, "Look at me, I'm harmless." That toothy grin that was just a little too big. She walks up to the window and starts tapping on the glass. I ask her if she needs anything. Cue the smile again. She says she needs to refuel. I ask her if she knows what to do. She replies with a dragged out, "Oh, yes." I raise an eyebrow, but just let her go about her business. I ask her for her prepay amount and method of payment. She looks at me again and says, "I forgot my purse. I'll be right back." I watch her go to her car and bend down into it to get what she needs. She bends down further, now partially out of view. Then further, and she's gone. Can't see any sign of her, like she just disappeared back there. 5 minutes go by. No creepy face lady. There's a scraping at the door. Mind you, this door is the only way in or out of this box. My mind starts freaking out. I look over at the peephole in the door and decide not to walk over and look through it. Then there was a scraping on the roof, same as before. At this point, my brain is making it worse for me, and I decide to call the main office inside the store. They can see the station from in there, so I figured they could clear this up for me. When I called, I didn't want whatever was outside to think I was onto them, so I asked the desk lady, "How about this weather?" She responds, "What weather?" "You know, the wind, blowing everything around outside." "What weather? It's calm as can be outside." "What about, you know," I fumble. "It's a beautiful night out, relax, no storms, okay?" While the conversation was going on, I was listening to shuffling and walking sounds from around the box. The desk lady continues, "Although, is everything okay out there? You stuttered into the phone just a moment ago, and why are all the western side lights completely out?" I can't give her a reply. "Along with your back pole light," she added. The pole light is the kind you find in most parking lots, the kind that are some 40 feet up in the air. Since so many lights were down, I could only see around the front area of the box, around the closed coolers. And guess who's there? The creepy old lady. Her face, her mismatched complexion, and that smile. "I can't reach my purse. It fell." I'm thinking to myself, Christ, it's been 10 minutes. "Can you come outside and get it for me?" I mutter. "I can't. As you can see, I'm having electrical issues." It was a fake excuse, but what else could I say? "Oh, please," she says. "I'm so old and weak." Flashing that grin one more time. "Sorry, can't leave." I then proceed to fake another excuse about an emergency. Apparently that was the wrong thing to say. Her fat smile vanishes instantly. "Come outside," she says. There's a slight rasp in her words now. "Can't," I stutter. This was when I crossed over. This is the moment that made me believe. Like Scully and Mulder. This little old lady, with the messed up face, 5 feet tall at best, she stares at me with all of her fury, and she gets as close as she can to the window, then slams her fist into it. Once, and I mean once, grumbling something like, "Fuel food," hodgepodge together. And I kid you not, the glass cracked. Not like a hair crack, I mean crack. One of my days off in the past, some meth head took a shot at the glass with a .38. The glass was replaced, but I saw it, and it had a good-sized crack. It was like this lady put a 12 gauge 2 inches away and fired. I lose it, pick up the phone, and call the office screaming out, "Emergency, emergency, emergency." The cops show up. Night manager comes running. I'm in the back, pale and waiting. Hiding, really. There's a pound on the door. "It's the night manager. I'm here with PD. Open up." I'm a wreck at this point, and didn't really want to say what I saw to my manager. The next hour or so was a bit of a blur. Mostly just my manager covering for me talking to the police. At one point the lights came back on. They said a storm must have knocked them out or something. No way I'm buying that, with the perfect weather and all. Apparently the cameras caught nothing either. I looked back over at the glass. My manager just says, "You should go home. I'll see you tomorrow." My manager covers the last couple hours of my shift. The next day I return. The box is a mess. Scratches everywhere. The door has paint stripped off in streaks. Chunks are missing from the side of the box roof, like something climbed it. My manager says there's actually a small hole in the roof. He asks me what happened, and says that PD may want my statement if there was any suspicious activity. I try to change the subject quickly and say it must have been the weather. Fortunately, my manager was looking out for me and said, "Yeah, I think so too." I ended up switching to a different department after that. Everyone asked me for years about that story, wanting to hear how I was shot at. I've learned the hard way that there's a price to pay for keeping silent on these kinds of matters. I heard there was an employee who worked that shift after me. She stayed until last year, and since I was at a different location, I was out of touch. Though I recently visited to catch up with people, how's it going, and stuff like that. They say she went missing last year, that she opened her door on her shift and walked out back. The computer system went out, the cameras too. She's still missing. The messed up part is that the guy working said the only lead they had was this dingy beater of a car that was seen briefly driving away from a bank camera across the street.